Hey guys, so we are on day 15 of Glory Be. This is our last day for the week. Day 16 will be the very last two chapters, and that will be next week's before we end the book with a summary. So this is where a lot of our really big events are going to happen. We just left off when JT and Robbie got in this fight, and Robbie tried telling him, to calm down and that there wasn't any need to be fighting and all that, but JT was really angry and wanted Robbie to go back home. Back to North Carolina. So when we left off, Glory's saying, well, let's go home. Let's see if Daddy or Emma's home because they'll know what to do. So now we're going to see what happens after that fight. Again, make sure that when I write something down in my notebook that you write it down also. That way you have all the information you need for the Google form. So chapter 27, Glory Be. By the time we made it down to our house, Robbie was walking pretty good. We turned up the sidewalk, and right off, Emma saw his bloody elbow and the scrapes on his cheek. Lord, child, what on earth happened? Jessalyn helped Robbie up the porch steps. JT beat him up. Emma held the front door open. Come in the kitchen. Let me look at you. I just got the wind knocked out of me, Robbie said, taking slow, deep breaths and then settling into a seat. It's nothing. I'll be fine. But Robbie wasn't fine, and Emma knew it. Jessalyn and I exchanged glances. I was trying to decide whether to tell Emma about JT's knife. Robbie wouldn't let us call the police, I said, so we came here. Emma opened the first aid kit. She dabbed orange medicine all over Robbie's elbow and blew on it. Robbie flinched. He looked from Emma to Jessalyn and back again. Nobody can know about this. He stood up like he was going somewhere. Jessalyn put her hand on Robbie's arm to have him sit back down. Her voice was full of pride. Back in North Carolina, Robbie got in trouble for doing the right thing, she told Emma. JT found out about it, about him eating at a lunch counter with a Negro friend. Jessalyn looked hard at me when she'd said that. Emma leaned close to Robbie. She gave his shoulders a gentle squeeze. Once Emma had taped a bandage on his elbow and cleaned his face up some, Robbie was in even more of a hurry to leave. I gotta get going, he said. My car's over behind the church. I'll walk with you, Jessalyn said. You? Jessalyn gave me a look that meant helping Robbie was done with. Stay here. Robbie eased himself up real slow. He winked at me. Thanks, Glory, for getting rid of JT. He followed Jessalyn out the front door. So, the first two events, Glory and Jessalyn bring Robbie to Emma to help him get cleaned up. So she's helping put medicine on him and bandage him up and helping him feel better. And then Robbie thanks Glory for getting rid of JT. And that may not seem important, but it really is because Glory is kind of the reason that all this happened. If she wouldn't have told Frankie Robbie's secret, then Frankie wouldn't have told JT and JT wouldn't have known about it and wouldn't have beat up Robbie. So Robbie thanking Glory for getting rid of JT is a big event because it shows that he forgives her, that he's not angry with her for telling his secret. So make sure that you write those two things down. If you need to pause the video, go ahead, and then we're going to continue reading. My sister hadn't told him who'd given away his secret. Knowing this all started with me telling Frankie, it made me sick inside. That's a big mess of trouble. That poor boy, Emma said, shaking her head. I handed Emma the picnic basket. We folded the plaid blanket hand to hand. I tried to think of all to tell her. I started slowly. JT and his friends didn't like what Robbie did back in North Carolina. By the way her eyes rested on me, Emma could tell that I knew more. It might make you feel better to talk. She packed away the leftover brownies in the bread box. Go lay down. And wiped off the kitchen table. And then she sat down and patted the chair. Right here, Glory, honey. I spoke quietly and carefully. Jessalyn's real mad, I said. I wasn't supposed to tell anything about Robbie, but I just couldn't keep it to myself. So I told Frankie. And then Frankie couldn't keep blabbed to JT that Robbie got sent to jail. I leaned back in the chair and looked at Emma. I'm scared. Those boys were wrong. Emma dropped her hands into her lap like the weight of the whole evening had just settled there. They never should have done that. beating up a boy who stands up for what's right. It's just a heap of more of the trouble that's all over the place this summer. So we have another event, and that's Glory feels sick that she told Robbie's secret to Frankie. But because she thinks that Robbie getting beat up was all of her fault. She said, if I never would have told Frankie, he wouldn't have blabbed to JT, and then Robbie wouldn't have gotten hurt. And so it's really settling into her that her choices don't just affect her; they affect everybody around her, and that the whole world kind of doesn't revolve around her anymore, like she previously thought. Ooh, excuse me. Like at the beginning of this story, when all she cared about was her birthday and her swimming pool, and now she's realizing that her actions affect everybody around her, and that this whole summer is bigger than just her and her swimming pool and her birthday party, that there's a lot of changes going on that are affecting everybody. So make sure you write that down. I told Emma how Frankie made me think the pool was open and how he blamed Laura for something she never did. Now that I was telling Emma the truth, the words spilled out fast. The pool's closed for all summer long. I thought everything would go back to the way it was. But even if that pool opens, it will never be the same in Hanging Moss. I stopped to catch my breath and leaned into Emma's shoulder. What's the matter with everybody, Emma? Most folks just scared of losing something precious to them. You mean the pool? I asked her. The pool's precious to me. No, something harder to describe. Something they need to hold on to, even when they might just need to step back. Other folks, they know the best time to let go. Emma hugged me tight and rocked me. Almost forgot, baby. She reached into her apron pocket. I got you a birthday present. What?
Can I go time?
Yes. She handed me a wrapped box. Inside was the tiniest little book. It's like our Nancy Drews, I said. It really opens and closes. For your new charm bracelet. She helped me snap it on. In a minute, Daddy came in the front door, and I ran to him. Daddy, something bad happened. What is it, Glory? Are you and Jocelyn all right? Robbie got beat up by JT and his friends. I looked at Emma. They were mad because Robbie took up some colored people back in North Carolina. And then I blurted, JT had a knife. Where's Robbie now? Where's Jocelyn? Daddy moved towards the phone. I'm calling the police. No, Daddy, please. Robbie didn't want his aunt or anybody to know about the fight. He and Jocelyn walked over to get his car. Daddy's arm reached around me. It was all my fault, I whispered into his white shirt. I got Robbie in trouble. I told his secret. As a minister, my daddy knew a lot about keeping secrets. He didn't ask me for more questions. He just kept hugging me. When Emma left to go home for the evening, Daddy held the door open and we followed her to the cracked sidewalk. Enjoy your Sunday blessings, Emma. We'll see you on Monday. No, sir. I'm coming in special after church tomorrow to make Glory's birthday dinner. We waved goodbye to Emma, and then Daddy stopped for a minute and looked at me like he just remembering what day it was. Happy birthday, honey. We walked back up the porch steps to sit together on the swing and watch the end of the fireworks. He and I looked off beyond the library to where the night sky lit up with color and bright flashes exploded over treetops. Daddy welcomed me into another one of his hugs. Glory be, he said softly. He carried his Bible and papers to his study and left me sitting and thinking about the whole day. When Robbie's gold station wagon stopped in front of our house, the headlights went down. Jocelyn saw me as soon as she stepped up on the porch. Why are you out here in the dark? Go inside. I put my feet down to stop the swing. I stood up and reached into my shorts pocket. I'm sorry about tonight, Robbie. I handed him the Love Me Tender keychain. You can have it back. I don't deserve your present. It was my fault that JT beat you up. I blabbed your secret to Frankie. Robbie wouldn't take back the keychain. Jocelyn already told me, but I don't care about JT. I don't need that kind of trouble. After all that's happened, I'm leaving to live with my mother again. What about football and Jocelyn? Robbie called his mama tonight. She's coming tomorrow, early. Jocelyn's voice was so soft, I wonder if I'd heard her right. She leaned her head on Robbie's arm. She was crying even more than before. Who wants to stay where people are so horrible to you? she was asking into the warm night. Jessalyn kept on talking, speaking to what seemed like only herself. Robbie's promised to come and visit me, she said. But I couldn't see Robbie Fox spending another minute in Hanging Moss. So, our last two important events for this chapter is that Glory tells her dad what happened, and Robbie's moving back to North Carolina. It's really important because Glory's dad now knows what happened, and he knows that Gloria told a secret and that it led to all of this, and he knows that Robbie and Jessalyn are in trouble. And because of all this trouble, Robbie called his mom and decided to move back to North Carolina because even though he got put in jail there for doing the right thing, it was better than always having to look over his shoulder, waiting for JT and his friends to attack him or do something bad. So make sure we write down those events, and then we're going to continue to chapter 28. The tornado went through. I sat on the top stair, touching my new charm bracelet, thinking about how to make Jessalyn happy again. I looked down the upstairs hall towards the sewing room. That's it, the sewing room. I snatched up all the clothes Jessalyn had piled on the daybed. I ran to her old bedroom and dropped her favorite blue sweater on the way, but I kept going. I went back for her basket filled with makeup and hair rollers. I stuck her fancy tasseled boots in the big closet in her old room. My Nancy Drew books and China animals were lined up in perfect order where they'd been ever since I could remember. But I carried them to the sewing room, my room now. Next, I grabbed my Buster Brown shoebox. What did I need with all this silly stuff? Cracker Jack prizes and a rusty skate key, my Jacob's ladder string. I dropped every piece of my old junk, one by one, in the wastebasket. When I got to the dried and crumbly grass from Elvis's house, I put it back, next to the two shells I couldn't bear to part with. And then I came to the faded pool notice, the lie that Frankie had written about the pool. I wanted to rip it into pieces, but I folded it into a hard triangle and put it in the box as a memory of my 12th birthday in Hanging Moss. I didn't want to forget everything. I waited by the window, holding my breath, until I heard Robbie's car drive off and Jessalyn starting up the stairs. When she stormed in the bedroom and flung her blue sweater onto the bed, I jumped a mile. Her voice was low, but she was sure mad. Who did this? Who destroyed my new room? Jessalyn looked around and saw our hairbrushes and boots and mascara all in our old room. Emma's sewing room is plenty big for me, I told her. You're the oldest. You get the biggest room. Jessalyn stared at the two beds, all the windows, and the closet that my entire new room could almost fit into. Like she couldn't believe it belonged to her now. You're giving me this room? All yours, I told her. Jessalyn got so still, I thought maybe she was mad. Robbie made me promise to forgive you for telling Frankie a secret. I'm sorry he's leaving, Jessalyn, I said. We were both real quiet. Want to play cards? I asked. You mean junk poker? I dumped my junk out, same as you. I didn't think you'd ever want to play again. I'm putting new things in my shoebox to save forever. I held up my box and started to untie the purple ribbon. Want to play junk poker with our new stuff? Jessalyn could tell by me not being able to look at her that deep down I hoped she'd say no. I didn't want to bet my new treasures. We'll play double solitaire, she said. I put down my shoebox. Jessalyn laid out her cards on a bumpy bedspread. I turned over a queen and looked for a place to play it. The pool's not opening again, is it? Jessalyn smoothed out the bedspread and then added a 9 of hearts to her cards. Things will never be like the way they were before, Glory. I flipped over 3 more cards, but nothing was working on my side. Miss Bloom says in a few years everybody will be wondering what the fuss was all about. I hope she's right, I said. Jessalyn put down her last card and beat me, but this time she didn't brag. Sleep in here tonight. She moved a pile of clothes from the extra bed. In my room, with me, she said. We'll clean up tomorrow. Your new room looks like a tornado went through. So, in this chapter, Glory moves into the sewing room and she gives Jessalyn the older room because it's bigger. And Glory's been fighting all summer for Jessalyn to stay with her in that room so that they could be together and they could share that sisterhood and so things wouldn't be changing as much. But Glory realizes that things are changing whether she likes it or not. And Jessalyn is growing up and needs her space. So she decides that since it's kind of her fault that Robbie has to move, that she would try to make it up to her by giving her the really big room and her taking the really tiny room next door. And Jessalyn realizes that she's doing this nice thing and says, well, just sleep in here tonight with me. So they're both kind of getting a little bit of what they want. All right. Chapter 29. A smile as big as Mississippi. The next afternoon, Jessalyn was upstairs listening to Elvis and mooning over Robbie. Daddy was resting after church, and Emma was in the kitchen fixing my birthday dinner and wearing the prettiest blue dress ever. Table set, she said. Everything ready for your special day. Well, one day late, she laughed at the face I made over that. And the cake. Icing's there for you and Jessalyn to put on together. It's chocolate, your favorite. She held up a big yellow bowl. Thank you, Emma. I peeled back the waxed paper and stuck my fingers in the bowl. She swatted at me, but she smiled too. Did you hear? Robbie's gone, I said. And Frankie might as well be. I licked icing off of my finger. That awful old lady Simpson. She didn't speak to me or Jessalyn at church today. Now don't you be worried about folks like Miss Simpson. Don't give her the satisfaction. The world doesn't change by magic, baby, but we'll get there. She took off her apron and reached for her fancy hat. Wait, Emma! I pulled her back close to me at the table. You didn't tell me about Mr. Robert Kennedy. Did he come to your church today? He sure did, Glory, honey. The church was filled to overflowing. Everybody was there. It was like nothing I'd ever known before. She settled back in her chair. She'd held up her hand, the one with the slim gold ring that never left her finger, and she promised to give me when I grew up. Hold my hand, baby, she said. You're touching the hand that touched Mr. Bobby Kennedy. Now I've come close to somebody as famous as the president. I threaded my fingers through Emma's. Somebody important. Well, that's one good thing about this summer. You know, Glory, she said, by making your friend Laura glad to be here, you're somebody important too. She held my hand right up against hers. Now don't you worry. We've got powerful praying hands, don't we? She winked and then hugged me tight. She smelled like cake with chocolate icing, like the pine soap she'd been scrubbing the saucepans with. I buried my face in her blue dress and took in all of her goodness. And I thought for a minute. Emma, I figured out what's got people like Mrs. Simpson and Frankie's daddy so riled up. It's not just the new people in town. It's things changing so fast it's scaring them. When people get scared, they make up lies, and they keep secrets, and they act mean. You've learned a lot, baby. When the summer started, I never thought that I'd know a real secret. Real secrets mean more than hiding that card game from your daddy. Real secrets can be hurtful, make people do bad things. And then she hugged me again. No matter what, you know Emma loves you, she whispered into my hair. See you tomorrow, Glory. And then I remembered. Emma, Miss Bloom said to invite you to the library tomorrow. Emma drew her breath in real quick and took a step back. What for? The thank you party for everybody who helped out at the July 4th parade, I said. We made a whole lot of food for the picnic. You get invited. Emma nodded her head. Well, I might just do that, Gloriana June Hemphill. I might just come to a party at the library. You can bring anybody you want, I said. Miss Bloom said to tell you that, too. She patted her hat on and headed towards the front door. I bet you had something to do with this fine invitation. And when Emma said that, I felt like I had grown a whole foot taller since turning 12 yesterday. I looked right at her and sent her a smile as big as Mississippi. Don't forget, Emma. I'll see you tomorrow. So that was chapter 29. That's the end of day 15. Glory learns that everything changing so quickly is what? And I want you to pause it right here so that way you can write down this sentence and then press play for the next part of it. Is what is scaring people. So what's scaring people, she says, is that things are changing so quickly and it's causing them to be mean and make up lies and keep secrets. And that's a really grown-up thought for her. She just turned 12, so that's like a 5th, 6th grader. And she's learning that when things change really quick, people get scared. And when people get scared, it causes them sometimes to be mean and to be hateful. And then Glory invites Emma and her friends to the celebration at the library. Now remember that Emma is Black, and the friends that she lives around, her neighbors, are Black also. And in Glory's neighborhood, the library so far has only been for white people. But Mrs. Bloom is opening it up and wants to invite everybody. And we know that the councils tried calling her and tried telling her to shut it down and to close it so that there wouldn't be having Black people and white people in the same place, and Mrs. Bloom refused. And she told Glory, make sure you invite Emma and make sure you tell her she can have anybody she wants come with her. So that's a really big deal for Emma. And she's saying, I might just come to that party tomorrow. And so that'll be really big for her. So I'm going to show you all of day 15 events. There is a lot of them. There will not be questions on all of them, but I want you to write all of them because you never know what there will be a question on. So if you need to pause the video, go ahead and pause it now so that you can write these down. And then, no sneak peeks, pause it again for the last two events. And I will see you next week for Glory Be, the very last two chapters of the book. They are so, so good. You guys are going to love it. I'll see you next time.